This is the Seven Figure Standard Podcast, hosted by Arash Vossoughi and Mikey Stiller, with mindset and strategies to help you break through and create personal freedom.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Standard Podcast. I'm Mikey Stiller, joined by my co-host, Arash Vossoughi, and you're in for a real treat because today's episode is all about how to live a world-class life. The term world-class is something that Arash and I and the Voss Coaching Co. got really into several months back, and it's become a standard in our company and with our clients. And it's something that we want to talk about on the podcast and with you, our listeners. So, Arash, what does being world-class and living a world-class life mean to you?
To me, it means constantly living the way you want to live on your terms with the people you want to surround yourself with, having the experiences you want to have, and constantly growing, constantly working with bigger ideas. And really, everybody's world-class. There's not one person who comes in who doesn't have the potential to be world-class. I love the idea of world-class. Everything, when we first got together to start this company, the first thing we talked about, our first event, was world-class wealth. And I wanted everybody to understand it because it's not hard to do. It takes a great deal of discipline. It takes a great deal of consistency, and it takes a significant standard to do it. But everyone has access to it. History has showed us what one person can do, anybody can do. So to me, world class is doing what you want as often as you want with whomever you want at a certain standard. That's what world class means to me.
And what do you think the separator is from people who are experiencing a world-class life and those who are struggling to find it?
I think there's two things. I think number one is your ability to accept the idea and bet on yourself at that level. And number two is to have the courage and constantly upgrade your courage. I always talk about very openly, like our goal right now is going to take a much greater level of courage than what we had to achieve our past goals. Mm-hmm. And constantly upping your courage is really stepping into a new version of yourself. And see, we can't keep operating and experience greatness coming from the old version of ourselves. It's outdated. Every single person has access to greatness. Greatness is inside of them, and they have it, but they have to accept that, bet on themselves, and really upgrade their courage.
What do you think about on the journey to living a world-class life and becoming a world-class performer or achiever? Do you think that that is a self-discovery process that you go through by yourself, or is it something that you need a mentor and a great circle of influence to achieve?
I think you always have to have other people to stretch you. I think you have to do it by yourself, but you can never do it alone. My mentor told me that, you have to do it by yourself, but you can never do it alone because we all have blind spots. And the most successful people have mentors, or have mastermind groups. Most of them have both. And constantly stretching. And to really create world class, you've got to get your ego out of the way. You've got to get to understand that you could be better than you are right now. And that's not putting yourself down, it's lifting yourself up. And you're constantly stretching. Stretching, really what it comes from the heart. And it comes from your want. And your want is so much greater than what you have right now. And it causes you to stretch. It causes you to accept an idea that you become passionate about. It causes you to think, oh my God, what if I can do that? What if that would be amazing? Now, most people reject that right away. The world class never reject it. They're constantly upgrading. They're constantly thinking, how can I expand myself? How can I expand my team? And they're very focused on other people. You don't create world class on your own. You create it by the development of other people, whether it's your clients, whether it's your mastermind groups, whether it's your peers, whether it's your family. You're constantly expanding them. Like if you're in my circle, like I'm constantly expanding you. if you're in my environment. If we go out to dinner, like if I hear something, I will challenge that idea. I will get them to think a bigger idea of themselves, think in possibilities. Because in my mind, I'm so wired now to not think about problems. I never think about them. And I'm always thinking about the problem as the opportunity. And you can execute that opportunity into a new idea, into a bigger business, into a better life. Because I don't know about you, but for me, I don't want to leave this world saying, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. Like, I want to create world class. I want to create world class experiences, and, like I want to have world class trips. I want to have these, the people I'm talking to leave and be like, remember, I left them better off than I found them, really stretch them. So to me, that's what world class is.
Okay, everything you just said gave such a beautiful visual. And I want to go back to what you said towards the beginning, which was you can't do it by yourself, or you have to do it for yourself, but you can't do it on your own. I think you used different words, but essentially that was it, which I love because it gives you two beautiful things that you have to be world class. And the first is responsibility, and the second is community. We talk about how important both of those two specific items are in your life.
Well, the minute you take full ownership and really understand you're the only problem, the only solution you're going to have, your life is going to get much better because now you're in control. When we're blaming the outside, we've all done it at some point. You're letting somebody else control your thinking. And then you say, they made me feel bad. No, nobody can make you feel bad unless you allow it, unless you're not guarding your mind. So when you take extreme ownership, your results are going to skyrocket because now you're focused on what can I do instead of blaming they did that to me. They did this. I always laugh about it. My kids, I'm probably driving them crazy because they'll come home from school this year. There were several occasions they go, they had a bad day at school and they say, well, this person said this. And I always tell them, well, how did you take it? Because you're in control of how it made you feel, not them. You're letting them control your mind. And they walk away, they go, oh, dad. And I'm like, you're going to appreciate this, oh, dad, in a few years. But when we take extreme ownership, our results skyrocket, our environment does. And this is why we've got to understand we create our own environment. Nobody else does. And our environment is dictated by our higher faculties. We really want to understand how they operate. When I learned, I never understood. People are probably listening to this saying, what is higher faculties? Like my mentor told me, he said, your environment is created by your higher faculties. You've got to really start mastering them. And our higher faculties is our memory, our will, our perception, our intuition, our imagination, and our reasoning. Now, if you ask the average person, if you ask high achievers, they'll know what these are, okay? See, reasoning gives you the ability to think. Your will holds one idea on the screen of your mind with the exclusion of any other idea. You become so monomaniacally focused on your want. Imagine right now if everybody here holds the idea that they are world class. They keep repeating to them. They're holding the image. They're holding their standard as world class. Well, they're doing that with their will. And they will draw it to them. I get a lot of questions, Mike, asking me, how can I bring my results quicker? I said, you got to develop the will. And you do it with focus. See, whatever we focus on expands or grows. And focus increases amplitude of vibration, but you do that with your will. Then you look at imagination. Imagine you were holding this image of world class all day long. Well, you're using your imagination and your will. Well, you're going to draw to you everything you want. Memory, look at memories, only focus on great things. I want everybody listening to this, think about a time that you were in flow. I mean, whatever you touched turned to gold. Like you were in this flow state. Well, those are the memories that you want to activate. And how you could do it is you think of something that was such an amazing time in your life. I always go back to when my first child was born, really when both were born, but I never had a child. So I had never felt gratitude. I was on this elevated vibration, right? So every time I visualize, I go back and remember that time and I get into that energy right away. Well, I'm using my memory. And then reasoning is our ability to think. No one can make us think a thing unless we give permission. Think only what you want. So you could see how these faculties are so important to master, but you have to take time, but you focus on one of them. And then you focus on them for 30 days. Maybe somebody right now wants to focus on building an enormous image of world class for themselves. They focus on that for the next 30 to 60 days. That's the only faculty you focus on. Well, you're going to make that part of your identity. And that is going to create an amazing new environment for yourself. And you will not accept anything that's not in harmony with that identity. That's the beautiful part of this.
I love that. So let's say someone does exactly what you just said. They're listening to this and maybe they hadn't thought about the term world class before listening to this podcast. And they're listening to it right now and they're saying, wow, I really like that. That resonates with me. I want to be world class. I want to live a world class life. And they listen to the suggestion you just made, which was focus on it for the next 30 to 60 days with the exclusion of all else. What do they do to build upon that and to build momentum into creating that world-class life for themselves?
Well, first thing we have to do, I'll give you a prequel to this. Okay. There's 4 aspects of our life that we have to be a control freak with. Number 1, your time, because how are you using your time? I want it to be just productive activities. And that doesn't mean you don't have fun with your family and friends. Okay, that's a productive activity too. So you have experiences. But you don't want to have wasteful time in your day. Number 2, your standard. You're always raising your standard. I've talked about it so many times on this podcast because it creates a new identity and creates empowering beliefs. Number 3, your energy. You guard your energy. You surround yourself with highly positive people who are stretching you, people who are already in the environment you want to go so you can grow into it. And number 4, your focus, because your focus prevents you from drifting. So how you create world class is from this moment on, you just see yourself world class. You're building that imagination every day of holding that image of world class. And then you know what happens? When you're doing your daily activities, you're going to get the thing, no, do it better. Do it with more enthusiasm. Do it with a higher level of expectancy. And that's how you create momentum. Expectancy is such a great word. See, we don't get what we want. We get what we expect. I want everyone to sit back right now. While you're listening to this, what were you expecting this week while you've been listening to this, prior to this podcast? And then they'll look back and say, I had an unconscious expectancy. Most people are expecting what they don't want. They're saying, oh, I've got to save for a rainy day. No, then you're going to attract a rainy day. You've got to expect only the best. Expect yourself to do things you've never done before. Expect yourself to be more effective than you've ever been. Expect yourself just to trust your instinct. That's how you're going to change things.
That was so good, Arash. I'm actually writing down a note over here because I love that. We haven't actually gone into expectancy on the podcast yet, but you said something there. You said, what is your subconscious expectancy? And so I think that that's an important distinction for people to make because they may think I'm reading my goal every day. I've set the alarm on my phone. I'm thinking about my goal, but there's this underlying expectation. There's this underlying belief that's holding them back and getting the results that they don't want in their life. How can you start changing that underlying expectation, that underlying belief that's holding you back?
Well, remember, whatever idea we're focusing on expands. And you can't let the outside, because I'm not saying what you expect you're going to get in a millisecond, but you continually expect the good that you desire to come to you, you're going to start attracting it. But expectation has to be with an enthusiastic energy. This is where I'm going no matter what. This is what's happening. I don't know if you're in sales right now, I'm going to get a listing if you're in real estate, or I'm going to sell my idea product or service. I don't know who's going to get it, but I just know that it's coming. And you have the expectancy creates this knowingness that you know that you know that you know. And when you are expecting big things, that's what's going to happen. What happens is you are where you are right now because the habit of your thoughts, and you control that. So you control your expectancy. Now, something that I was telling our coaching in our Quantum Leap coaching, I said, a lot of people could do that every 3 hours, but they have a contradictory belief to it. They don't believe they're going to do it. Well, you can't trick your subconscious there. Your subconscious is going to go based on your dominant thinking. Now, if you go to one of our previous lessons about results, let's look at results for a second. Your results are a reflection of the ideas dominating your mind. You want to burn that right there is a big one for you. Your results are a reflection of the ideas that have been dominating your mind. So if you love your results, upgrade them. Upgrade that enthusiasm and expectancy. If you don't like them, start identifying what were the triggers that have gotten me to play my life not to lose. I've been listening to this book. It's on Audible. It was a book a long time ago. It's on Andre Agassi. And so he's going through his career. He was the best, one of the best of all time. Like, I loved him growing up. Anyway, he had this belief like he was being criticized because he couldn't win a Grand Slam. And he'd go to these finals and he'd say in his book, he was talking about, I was always playing not to lose. He said, once I changed that and started playing to win, everything changed. And that's somebody who was at the top of his profession at that time. I think he was number 4 in the world at that time. And to be 4 in the world, you have to be, elite, world class. But then he shifted from being aware of playing to win instead of playing not to lose. And I teach that all the time because if we're playing to lose, we're hesitating. When you hesitate, you lose. You can't hesitate. You have to act. When an idea comes, you act on it when the fire is hot. And that is a quality of world class.
Everything that you just talked about, especially the enthusiasm, is the difference between getting into the spirit when you're going through your day and activating all of these principles and processes and doing it mechanically. Can you talk about the difference between being in the spirit of something and doing it mechanically? Not only the difference physically, but also the difference it's going to have on your results.
Well, I always go to the flow state because when you're in the flow state, you're in the spirit of it, where you're not thinking, you're being. When you're mechanical, you're overthinking, you're planning to plan. You're constantly saying, I'll do this when this happens. I'll do that when this happens. No, you do it now. You do it when you're not ready. You're only going to be ready for a thing when you do it. It's not going to be thinking about it. It's going to be the actual call. It's going to be the presentation you do. It's going to be acting on an idea. And so that's the difference when you're in the spirit, where it just takes you over, that you know you're willing to lose, but 9 out of 10 times you're going to win. And that one time you lose, you maybe did it with too much doubt. So next time you're saying, I'm going to learn from that doubt and I'm going to come in with full faith. I'm just going to go and let my spirit take over and let the best version of myself take over. And then you practice repetition. Repetition is critical to success. Now, I will tell you, the top 2 success principles that I've operated in my life, in my opinion, are attitude and discipline. I think discipline is number 1 because without discipline, I don't think anybody creates success. I think it's impossible. With discipline, you're going to create a great deal of success. Then you build repetition. And repetition is the thing your programming hates. It's so illogical to your program. They say, I've already done this. Why do I have to practice it again? But world class is what we're talking about. They are practicing over and over and over and over. I always go back to this story. My mentor called me one day and he goes, I've got to share this story with you. You're going to love it. And I said, well, what is it? And he said, I was listening to this interview with Jerry Seinfeld. And at this time, he's at the peak of his career. Like, he's already created so many enormous successes with his shows and comedy. And he said, do you know what he does every day? I said, what is that? He goes, he practices his presentation every single day. Every single day, he is practicing it for not just 1 hour, but for 3 hours. And he said that needs to be a reminder to us how important repetition is. See, what we deliberately practice, we become. We could deliberately practice not practicing, then we're going to be very average. Or you could be world class and constantly working on your ability to do it better and better and better. That's what repetition does. It rewires us to deliberately get better.
I love that example. I'm so glad you told that story because it's also such a great reminder that there's no stopping point. There's no point when these processes stop working and you just get to kick back and relax and enjoy. It's all part of the journey and who you're becoming and the identity that you're building for yourself. So, Raj, this podcast episode is dropping on July 11th. And just 6 days later, we're starting a free online event called 3 Days to Living a World-Class Life. Now, I think it would be a great idea to invite everyone who's listening to this podcast to our free online event, which is going to be held in our closed Facebook group. If you would like to join us for that event, send us an email, hello@voscoachingco.com, and we'll get you the link to join. Raj, what's a little bit of a preview to that event?
Well, 3 days of world class. What we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to install habits of the world class and make it part of you, make it part of your identity, where it's going to be harder for you not to do it than to do it. And I'm going to talk a lot about things that are complex ideas that I make simple, that are going to get you to master yourself and work with a bigger vision of yourself. To me, vision is the starting point of everything. And we want to be so convicted to our vision, not to the circumstances. And you're going to learn how to discipline your mind, not let your mind discipline you, how to create an empowering blueprint of the standard of life that you want from this point forward. And you're going to learn the goal achievement installation process. So we do it because we want to continue helping people. That's why we created Voss Coaching Co. One of the things that I'll tell you that really changed my life is when I set the standard to get in the habit of only things that serve at a high level. That meant from walking away from things that were no longer in harmony with the way I wanted to live and with the way you wanted to live. So these 3 days will be jam-packed with ideas. And I highly encourage, if anybody wants more training, if they want to expand their life, and it's not going to cost them $1. We're doing it to serve. I highly encourage you to join.
Yep. I'll just mention these podcast episodes are usually somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes. The 3 days is going to be about 90 minutes a day. So it's 90 minutes on the 16th, 17th, and 18th of July. We would love to have you join us. Again, just send us a quick email, hello@voscoachingco.com. So we'll call that action step number 1 for today, but let's give them an action step as well that they can do between now and then to get right into action on creating their world-class life.
I think the first thing I'll tell you, pick one of the faculties, whether it's your will, your reason, your imagination, your memory, and your intuition. Pick one of the faculties and focus on it. Focus seeing yourself world-class. The one thing about the world-class, they're always trusting their instinct. That goes with the intuition. And really see yourself. Do it for the next 30 to 60 days. Maybe you pick reasoning. Reason is your ability to think. So you only are focused all your energy on what you want, and you reject everything that's not that, and hold the picture of what you want at world class. Imagine you were right now, even if you're doubting this, the one thing I can guarantee you, if you practice what we're teaching you, you're going to win. The one thing I can guarantee, we become what we think about most of the time. That's something Earl Nightingale used to say. And there's nothing more accurate that if you focus on what you want at world class all day long, you have to become world class. Because what's going to happen, it's going to infiltrate your whole consciousness, and then it's going to be a part of your identity. And every decision you make will come from world class. That's what I want for everybody. I want them to be a world class leader, a world class parent, a world class individual, a world class spouse, world class friend. And you're going to see what you attract. Your environment is going to change significantly. And that's what I recommend.
Absolutely. All right, Arash, thank you so much. This has been another great episode of the 7-Figure Standard podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you would, leave us a rating, review, and share this with your friends and family. We would really appreciate it. We'll see you next week for another episode of the 7-Figure Standard podcast. For now, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7-Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mikey and how Voss Coaching Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit VossCoachingCo.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7-Figure Standard.